Alright, thank you, Enemy, for that awesome introduction. How's everyone doing today? My name is LRock. Most of you of the RGL audience already know who I am. Got a small little block of games for you all today that I hope you're going to enjoy. Start off with a few superhero titles that you'll all be very familiar with if you watched what I do before. And we're going to conclude it into some Mario stuff before Too Good takes over. So for today, we're going to start with a game that a lot of you have seen me run in the past. This here is Batman Returns for the SNES. It's a Konami beat-em-up, one of the few single-player Konami beat-em-ups for the system. Doesn't really feel like a Konami title. To me, this always feels more like a Capcom title. But aside from the music, that is, because the music is straight-up Konami team. For today, I'm going to be doing a run on the easy difficulty, simply because easy is... I mean, I know it's cliche to say, doing easy runs is like, why would you do easy when you can show off the higher difficulty? To me, there are strats in this difficulty that you can't do on the higher difficulties that I like to show off. So that's primarily why I like to, let people have a look at it and judge for themselves. So, hang on just one second. Actually, that should be fine. So we're going to start with that. And back to our title screen, we're going to hit 3, 2, 1, go. Mash our way through these cutscenes. Thanks for the good luck, everybody. Turn the volume up just a little bit. So here we have Batman. Just zipping his way through Gotham. On his way to taking out all these clowns that are causing mayhem. Normally use that as just a term of non-endearment, but in this case they're actually clowns. Our primary form of offense that you see here is an infinite that you can cancel by pressing the block button, which isn't common for Konami titles. But we got one in this game. We're going to make plenty use of it. We do 3 hits there. One total loop does 20 damage, 6 per punch and 8 per knee. Try and group them together. Didn't work. Sometimes they let you do it. That time he wasn't having it. Oh well. Some of these guys are tricky. Behavior is exceedingly random in this game. Sometimes you get enemies that are going to be a lot more, what's the word I'm looking for, aggressive, and others that aren't. That was also very unfortunate that the rocket went through that guy and hit me, because that's not what I was anticipating at all. I got this guy here. Things have gone a little bit by the wayside, so I'm going to have to do some backup strats here. Alright, that was a little wonky. That admittedly is the hardest section of the first stage. Things can go really wrong really quickly. Grab this guy, slam him on the back wall. Legitimately one of my favorite things in the game from a presentation standpoint. See the noggin knocker there? That does a whopping 24 damage per enemy that you hit. I tend to use it quite a bit, but it's usually to ensure that I'm able to actually kill the enemies. Because if you don't kill them, it's not particularly that good. Zip over to the mailbox, walk this guy over, drop a test tube, which clears the screen. Saw one of those earlier. Do our cape swipe to take out both motorcycles. That's pretty exact placement. It's certainly not a super difficult strat with some practice. It's not frame perfect or anything, but it does take some effort. Moving on to a side-scrolling stage here. Out of our beat-em-up element, we're just going to move to the right. Because here you're just allowed to do that. All you have to do is just walk right, and you can just dodge everything except those guys that are jumping there. And those are random. Moving on to our boss. Cool little cinematic bit here where we get to pull the grappling hook onto the wall to hit him in the back of the head. Finish him off there with a test tube. You may have noticed that our primary form of offense here actually switches from batarangs, or from punches onto batarangs. Standard for the side-scrolling stages. They turn into more of a run-and-guns type stage. Pad up strats. I like it. This level is definitely the longest in the game. Also one of the more complicated levels in terms of strats. It's where the enemies start getting really, really random. As you can see, that guy just decided he didn't want anything to do with us, sadly. Whereas I definitely wanted to introduce him to what size glove I wear. This guy here. I'm going to try and walk this guy down here for a grouping. Okay, that works. He's been pretty misbehaving about that lately. If he gets a punch before you can grab him, it can be a real problem. Hit this guy. I'm going to do this just because I love showing it off. He gets to hold the bomb and take out his boy right next to him. It actually wasn't within the last couple years that I even knew that Batman could do that in this game. He can actually pick up explosives that are thrown at him. You can throw them back, you can give them back, like it's a Christmas present. Pretty neat stuff you can do there. Actually gonna hold to the middle here. This guy come down. I also love this music, by the way. This is my favorite music track in the game. Maybe the most Danny Elfman thing in the game. Let's cut our way through some enemies here. So this is a strat that I like to show off for easy. You can actually hit these guys holding the bomb, walk them forward, and then their own bomb kills them. You can't do that on Mania because explosives don't do that much damage against enemies on that difficulty. Mania being the hardest difficulty, that is. Ah, my goodness, I messed up my execution there. Let's take this guy. Goal there is I always want to slam him into the bike while it's moving, but had a little bit of a mistimed forward tap there. Drag this guy up here. Move on to our next stage. Bat him up. I love it. Onto a side scroll. This we're actually going to be able to employ a couple damage boosts, one of which occurs right here. Let this guy slide right past us. This one we can't damage boost because it knocks us to the left. So the best option there is to just avoid it. Good placement on those hits on those enemies there. Those are pretty hard to hit, actually. We'll just hold this, let the elevator open, and then we can just move on. Sometimes they follow us. They're pretty easy to deal with, though. They go down in one hit. That's generally not a huge concern. Here's our other damage boost. We're going to walk forward to these torches. Zip our way across this fire. You can get hit by these logs for another damage boost, but I opt not to. I don't actually think it's faster. And the logs do a lot of damage. Like a whole lot of damage. Move through the floor there, onto our next section. Last section of the stage. And also admittedly the hardest. That was actually worked out pretty well. Not used to the rocket guy coming in at the top. Didn't get to punch him, I grabbed him by mistake, so I had to go with a little bit of a backup strat there. I got these guys. Tend to use the test tube here because those two guys just have too much health and they're just way too far apart. This guy always shows up at the end no matter what. Like, you can't prevent him from spawning solo. This guy holding the bomb, he can either hold it or he can toss it. Granted, you see there he tossed it, but what you want is for him to toss it earlier, and he didn't do that time. A little bit of a mismatch here. The purple guy that spawns in the top left has a lot of health, so ideally you want to be able to catch him right away, but he didn't quite behave himself. Despawn here, I hope. Good. What happened is, what I try to do is I do the noggin knocker to knock the bigger clown to the left side in the hopes that he'll despawn from the screen, we'll never see him again, which is exactly what happened there, so that was great. It's admittedly kind of hard to get. Move on here. Drop a test tube. I use the last one there just because those guys are so far apart. Got the last section of clowns. It's going to move us on to our boss. Get to alter up the infinite a little bit here down to our one-punch infinite instead. You can do a variation to 3-punch infinite, but it's a lot harder. So for consistency, I just move it down to 1. The 3-punch infinite saves a little bit of time, not a huge amount, like something like maybe a second and a half if you're able to do it consistently. I know at least one player in this game who can do it, but I can't do it consistently. For me, it's easier to just do the rhythmic punch block, punch block, punch block. For stage 3, this is certainly the least random stage in the game. First couple sections, this one here is going to be an auto-scroller. The little thing I like to show off is that clowns will come out and try to take a swing at you, and then they'll just do that. They just decide it's better to not deal with Batman if they can't hit him the first time, I guess. This one I'll take out because it actually saves time. We'll cross to our second one. Music's cool too. This section actually features my favorite clown in the entire game too. This purple guy spawning on the right side. We're gonna move over and he's gonna just take a dive. Love that a little bit. He's the only one that you can actually manipulate by moving. They got those guys. No, it's not. Would advise not taking that bet. Now, all bosses have a fixed amount of health. I like it though, Smitty. I like what you're trying to do. Alright, so this jump's really hard. Okay, didn't get it. There's a way you can jump and miss both the purple guy punching you as well as the rocket clipping you in the leg. Really, really hard jump to make. I've only made it a handful of times. If you jump too early, the punch clips you. If you jump too late, the rocket hits you. Watch these bombs to drop. Didn't really want a purple guy. Did a second tall guy, which I expected. Drop a test tube there to clear the screen. It's really optimal to use a test tube there because in the event that you do get a second tall clown like we did, it gets to just clear the screen immediately. Otherwise, their torches create a wall of hitboxes that you just don't want to have to deal with. All right, for our first really difficult fight here with Catwoman, we're going to hope we land this infinite. Count it off if you want. Tend to remain really quiet during that because messing that combo up is very punishing. If Catwoman gets loose, she immediately gets to go invincible and unleash this attack that does a lot of damage, and you're better off just making sure that you can tag her the first time. Alright, on to stage 4. Pretty cool little stage here for the first couple sections. This room is very random. We're going to have different subsections of enemies spawn here. We're going to get one from the ceiling or the floor. So we got one from the ceiling there, which I'm okay with. Take care of those guys. And the reason why I decided to dance with them rather than kill them right away is because if we just go ahead and just take them out, all that does is incentivize more enemies to spawn. This room is actually based on a timer, not a fixed number of enemies that you have to fight. Which I think is really interesting for a beat 'em up. That's not very common. All fat ones, great. Luckily the fat guys all have really low health in this section, which isn't normal. That's not good. Yeah, we're gonna lose a lot of time here. The big guys' punches are like the bane of my existence. If they hit you once, it's a natural combo and it's a knockdown. It's not good. Not good for you, that is. Unlike this room, which is not random at all. Every enemy spawn here is completely fixed. You can go to the same place and do the same exact thing every single time. Take out that guy. Drop some test tubes. The enemies here are just too far spaced out, and they have a lot of health. A little grouping action here. We're going to get these last sections of guys in for a test tube. It's a shame about that test tube strat, because there actually used to be this really cool grab setup that I utilized on the left side of the screen. But test tube's faster, so we use that now instead. On to our second Catwoman fight. It's the exact same as the first one, except it's not nearly as difficult. She can't get invincible going out of this. She lost all her magic powers and let her no-sell your nonsense. We're going to throw her to the left. Reason we do that is because of this cutscene that triggers. If we knock her at any way to the right, she takes a lot longer to walk to the Ice Princess. On to, in my opinion, the hardest fight in the game, the first penguin fight. It's another run and gun fight where we only have batarangs, so we can't even do anything cool like infinite him to death. It's very wily Alien from Mega Man 2, in the sense that you don't want to collide with him at all. He does a lot of damage if he touches you here. Good pattern so far. Like, I'll take hits from umbrellas all day and get iframes, but I don't want him to touch me, as you can see why. Stood up a little too early there, explains what happened there. Okay. Alright, cool. Not my best fight, because he did touch us. Very unfortunate there. Unleash this cutscene, move us on to our next stage. Everyone press F to pay respects to the Ice Princess, the true hero of the story. Alright, so I gotta give all the props in the world to another Batman Returns runner named West Point Steve who discovered this strat. I've been running this stage as just a pure auto-scroller for the first 2 years that I ran it. And then Steve discovered, hey, you can hold up in this section and it gives the Batmobile turbo, which allows you to go faster. It saves something like 13 seconds the first time I used it, and I've used it ever since. It does make the stage a bit more execution intensive, but it's well worth it. Now, enemies spawn at fixed rates regardless, but they generally spawn due to a previous wave of enemies being cleaned out. The reason that's going to be important is there are a couple sections of rocket launcher guys, like these guys, that are going to appear, and we want to take care of these guys as quickly as possible. And it's actually much easier when you have turbo active because they're closer to you. So you can just gun them down from directly in front of the Batmobile as opposed to having to wait it out. Move our way through here. Had to let go of up there for a little bit to reposition myself. Remember, we're doing all this for the Ice Princess. She deserves our condolences. Can't even keep that out. Another quick section of launchers. You can just unleash a lot of damage when you have turbo on. It's really great. Like, they just soak it up super quickly. Collect some of these points. Points really only get you extra lives in this game. They're not super useful, but they do get used. I'm actually going to slow it down here a little bit to make sure the boss spawns in a way that we want it to. See, the real trick of this stage in terms of manipulation is you don't want the road to curve a lot. This stage would be a lot easier if it wasn't on mode 7 and you just got to go straight. But because of the road curving, that can really alter the dynamics of a lot of things, primarily boss fights, enemy fights, things like that. It also alters the way we're going to finish out the stage, like so. Like I'm actually just going to turn off the gas here and try to line up with the road as best I can. You want to try and line up with the middle of the road essentially as consistently as possible, because that's how the stage ends. Once Batman reaches the middle, that's when it stops. So if you're all the way on the left or all the way on the right, then all that does is just force it to actually have to realign to the center, and it eats up time. Onto the train, one of the more complicated stages. You can zip line those guys down, drop some test tubes, because these guys just have way too much health. Hit that guy, get these guys in for a setup. Good stuff there. It's unfortunate that strat has to work out the way it does. It's the fastest way to go, but I really don't like having to fight that green clown by himself. Pro tip for this section, if you stay at the very top pixel, those bombs that are coming in from the background will not hit you. The ones being thrown by the green clowns on screen will. But you might as well eliminate problems when you can. Hit this guy, walking forward. Remember, this wouldn't be possible in Mania. That was good. Let's let that go. One last fire clown here. These guys are actually fairly dangerous. Try to fight them as they're supposed to. Hit those guys. That actually works as a despawn most of the time. Hey, it worked there. Days. I was really, really hoping to be able to catch that guy. So for this section, we have these metal bars that are coming up on us. Gonna choke slam him there to get some iframes. These things become a real problem if you let them, especially when with these purple guys, because they can actually jump them. Grab this guy, get some iframes there. Move forward, drop our last two test tubes. Get some health, and that's going to clean it out. It's actually one of the faster stages in the game when you are able to work out enemy kinks like that. Boss of this stage, we got another infinite boss. This guy brings some goons with him. The real kicker here is, obviously you don't want him getting out of this, but it's a lot easier for him to get out because he has these clowns that are helping him. They can hit you out if they're able to hit you mid-combo, which admittedly isn't that hard for them in most cases. But we had a really good fight, so that's good. If they, you can see it in my run from SGDQ this year, they actually hit me out of it, and it was pretty tilting. Managed to retrieve it and get it back, but it can be a really bad thing when it happens. Alright, for the last stage, move on to literal magical Christmas land with all this snow. I'm going to throw this here to set them up to all appear in the same place, take them out. Really glad I discovered this strat. This strat was rad. Same with that there. Rocket just coming in and hitting that guy. Let that guy do what he's going to do. Hit these motorcycles. Wish he had fired one less, though. That would have been optimal. The way the rocket guys work is really weird. Sometimes they fire 2, sometimes they fire 3. In very rare cases, they'll fire 1. I generally don't want that there. I generally want 2. See if we can get this despawn. Did not. There's a really, really hard despawn you can do there that involves you hitting the motorcycle and the fire cloud that spawns from the left that we just encountered there. You can knock him all the way off screen, then you don't have to actually fight him. Just really, really hard to do. That was unfortunate. I had great positioning there and then I got hit. So these rockets tend to make life pretty difficult. I was really hoping he wouldn't show up. At least not yet. To get these guys for a setup instead, since I couldn't finish them the proper way. And in these next 3 sections, we're always going to have one yellow guy spawn at the very end. That's unavoidable. You can't just let him spawn and then group them together. He's always going to be a solo act. That's unfortunate. I thought I canceled that. This'll work. Okay, I'll take this. This is some really good grouping. Kinda had to stay silent and adjust there. That was really strange. I've not seen some groupitude of that happen in quite some time. Unfortunate. These big health purple guys are generally pretty shy about approaching you. Doing this strictly for a setup. Just gonna hit stuff until I can't anymore. There we go. That section's rough. Just lots of different variety of enemies that work really well together. Move on here to our last section. We're just gonna test tube everything back to the Stone Age. Just too many enemies here, and plus we saved the test tubes for this long, so what? Might as well just not use them. It is indeed the penguins that are firing the rockets. Alright, couple boss fights to close this out. First we have the big rubber duck. Got all our hits there. Okay. Actually don't mind taking those hits from the car. Do mind that jump input not occurring though. Also got a delayed reaction there. That'll work though. Probably wasn't optimal. We're gonna walk out of the room anyway. On to the very last penguin fight. Big combo here. We're gonna go for 70 hits. Hope we don't drop it. Much like the first Catwoman, Penguin can just get a lot of iframes if you mess this up. So let's hope for the best. Alright, good stuff. Very, very good finish. Feels so good to be able to hit that. Our final split's going to be once the class cutscene music starts, and there we go. 2244. Certainly not a bad run. Duck 5, the successor to Ducks 1 through 4. I like it. That's really good. Anyway, that is Batman Returns. Cool run. One of my favorites for sure. Learning the Infinite was by far one of the most rewarding things I've done in gaming. Just because you just get to do so many cool things with it. And it makes a one-time super difficult game look not that bad. Thank you for all the GGs, everybody. I appreciate those. It's going to move us on to our next game, which I'll be setting up here in just a moment. Do bear with me. Appreciate y'all sticking around. In the meantime, while I'm doing that, feel free to drop a shout out for the Random Acts charity. Appreciate y'all sticking around here during the Endure for Kindness, and I'll be back with you here.